Hey, it's Chris here. And in this video, I want to talk a little bit about what it may take for me as a practicing Christian to vote for Democrats in 2026. Now, I'm not one of those Christians who thinks that Democrats are of the devil or evil or wicked. I understand that Democrats represent a number of constituencies whose core beliefs are often very much at odds with what my beliefs are as a Christian. Yet at the same time, I understand the need to speak and represent various groups of people. And while I disagree, I don't think Democrats are any more evil or wicked than Republicans. In fact, I'm thinking more and more lately that Republicans have no right to claim any higher moral ground than Democrats. The reason why I'm making these videos is I want to speak to people who are Democrats, who are, maybe my videos might reach some people that are elected Democrats somewhere and can start a conversation. Because I'm country preacher, I'm registered nurse. I live in deep red area. I'm not. I'm a registered Republican, but I'm not bound to the Republicans. I'm getting increasingly disgusted by the MAGA cult and Donald Trump. So I really wanted to have these videos to kind of talk about these issues. In the first video, I talked about the idea of economic opportunity for working families. I think that's really got to be a core message that needs to break through. What are Democrats going to do first and foremost to provide economic opportunity for working families so they're not getting crushed? But along with that, and the second thing that I want to talk about in this video is affordable housing in stable communities. I believe that this is one of the biggest issues that is facing our country right now. We live in a very wealthy country, and because of that, working families are getting increasingly squeezed by rising prices. Home prices went up like 30-40% going through the pandemic, and they're continuing to rise with inflation. The market is slowing down a little now, but nobody can afford the payments because of interest rates being so high. So it's really hurting mobility. People can't move for other job opportunities because they can't afford to sell their house and buy a new one because their mortgage payments, because most of our payments not only include mortgage and interest, they also include property taxes and homeowners insurance. So they're faced with situation, well, if I move because of this better job opportunity for my family, then my house payment is going to double and my utilities are going to be more expensive. And I can't afford this opportunity to relocate. And my family may be suffering where they're at, but there's nothing I can do about it. In fact, many people are losing their jobs and saying, I can't go somewhere where there's an opportunity for me to have a job because I can't get rid of my house where I'm at, and I can't afford housing where I might go or would have a job. So even if I got a job, I'd still be just as bad off where I'm at in this area without a job. So housing has become a problem, not only entry level for first-time home buyers, but for people that are trying to help their family survive and need to migrate somewhere, go somewhere for better economic opportunities. They can't afford to do that. They can't afford to deal with job loss in an economically dying area because they can't afford the housing. They can't get out of the house they're in, and they can't get into a new house. And then the other part of this is in many communities, the most affordable housing are in the most dangerous places. When my wife and I moved into the metro area where we're living now, and we were looking at affordable housing, the houses that we could afford without really stressing about the increased interest rates and all that, were in areas where it would be very risky for us because of our taking care of our two mothers and being in a high crime area, more dangerous area, an area where city doesn't keep up the properties, and it's just not safe in the streets physically. It's just not a good place. So a lot of people are looking at that. So anything that's affordable to me is someplace dangerous. It's not in a stable community. So people want affordable housing in stable communities. And I think one of the things that came to mind as I'm thinking about this, again, just trying to look at things being consistent with my Christian faith and beliefs, is one of the things is these kind of community grants where you allow a local community to come up with data-driven solutions to improve community health, well-being, safety, and all that, to improve the community so they are safe. Now, different things are going to work for different communities. An urban community and a rural community, a suburban community, may need slightly different twinges or tweaks to different solutions to help the community be a safe place. But let's give these communities opportunities to make arguments that if you give us this grant, this is what we're going to do. We've done the research, and these are tested solutions. And then we're going to keep track of metrics, and you're going to keep helping us as long as we're following the metrics, with the goal of developing the community to a point where there be enough wealth coming into the community in terms of increased home values and people that are employed paying taxes, that eventually those communities would not continue to need those grants. In other words, they'd be time limited to give communities time to refurbish and renew their communities and build up their tax base to be sustainable. I've seen this in many small towns, as serving as a pastor in small towns, as a nurse in small towns. Many places there is no place, many counties, there's no place to house the homeless. So they're in the streets. Because everybody says, not in my backyard. We're not going to have a homeless shelter in my backyard. So often it's the people in the communities that are opposing the very thing that would help the community get better. But there's also not enough mental health services and not enough addiction services. Many people who are homeless, and much of the crime, and I've talked to community police in different communities, and like 85% of the crime being committed in any community, this is just, having talked to them, I don't know about the data that may back this up, is driven by people with mental health and or addiction problems. So I've talked to police leadership in a number of places, and they say a lot of what our time is being done is to deal with the kinds of crimes that are being committed by people who are mentally ill and have substance abuse problems. And so if we could solve that, we would greatly reduce crime in our neighborhood. If we could actually invest in mental health services, invest in addiction help for addicts, we could actually reduce crime. And that would go a long way to help create stable communities. Another thing to think about, I was thinking about this, is what about creating tax incentives for major corporations to relocate in these more rural counties where they're not only providing jobs, but they're also bringing in workers who can go somewhere where there's more affordable housing, because rural areas have houses that are that are going unsold, they're vacant, they're falling down, and you could have these houses being used and rehabbed and refurbished, creating more business for tradespeople, but also providing for people that would go and follow a company that might have a major economic center in a rural county where they could advance their careers. And why not provide incentives tax-wise for these corporations to move a lot of their businesses to areas where life is more affordable for people who work for them? Because right now what's happening is more and more businesses are getting concentrated in these certain areas where the cost of living is simply outrageous. So if you want to work in your professional, you have to go to these places like New York City or Chicago, Washington, D.C., all these places where all these areas where the cost of living is through the roof. So you get there and you may be making $150,000 a year, but your rent is $4,000 a month, and you know all the costs for childcare for your kids in school, the cost of transportation, the cost of everything. All of a sudden, $150,000 is like somebody making $50,000 in the country. And why not create these kinds of environments where people can pursue their careers in environments where housing is more affordable, and give tax incentives for that? What about having job transfer tax credits? We're talking about home buyer, first-time homeowner tax credits, but what about somebody who is trying to sell their house in one place and moving to another place where they have a job, and you know their mortgage in the one place where they lost their job is 3%, but they got to pay 6% in the place where they're moving to get a job, and that's going to create a huge financial loss, even though it's an economic opportunity. And they're buying a new house at an extremely higher cost relative to where they came from. So why not give a job transfer credit if somebody is leaving one place due to work and takes a job somewhere else, and the cost of living is so much higher in that new place that they can take some of that cost of moving and get some kind of tax credit for like a job transfer. How about incentives for corporations, for these housing manufacturers or home builders to build homes that are simple and basic and under 2,500 square feet? We're getting all these McMansions, at least everywhere I've seen, especially living down here in the South for the last 15, 20 years. It's just like all these 3,000 foot McMansions. And it's just so expensive, and people are getting squeezed into these. But why not provide financial incentives for people, for home builders not to make as big a margin, make these basic, under 2,500 square foot homes that are more basic, more affordable for people, and to offer some kind of tax incentives to do that. Another one I thought of is, how about limits? And people have talked about this. You've got all these investment groups buying up single family housing and taking it off the market, using them as rentals and everything like that. And they driving up the price because they can come in and they can pay cash. And in the last several years, that's what they've been doing. They've been coming in and buying up houses, paying cash. And that dwindles the supply for people like me who want to come in and move to a new area with a job opportunity and to buy a house that's affordable. How about saying to these companies, you want to buy duplexes, you want to buy commercial developments, you want to buy apartment complexes, fine, buy away. But if you're just buying up single family houses and turning them into Airbnbs, or you're buying them up just to rent, that there should be some limits, and you can't get around it with multiple LLCs like these corporate ownerships of single family homes. There's got to be some kind of limit so that single family homes go to single family individuals so that they can be homeowners. I think these kinds of things will help create affordable housing and to create stable communities. So we have affordable housing and stable communities. So people can know that they can live and work in these communities that are stable and safe and be able to experience economic opportunity as a working family. And I think this has not really, everybody's talked about it, everybody realizes it's there, but I have not seen one thing break through where either political party is really broken through with a concrete plan to help address community stability, community vitality, particularly in rural areas, and affordable housing. You know, all this talk about this and that, and what really would make a difference in the lives of so many families is to have affordable housing in an area where they can work and raise a family, or if they're single, they can work and live on their own and not need to live with their parents or other things, where somebody who wants to be single and live on their own can be single and live on their own and live and work, and then have other people around them for a community and build a good social network. We just don't have that right now in the United States. And all of this is leading to a breakdown in relationships. So many people are working so many hours, they're so stressed, and they've got so much going on that they don't have time for community, whether it be church or other things. And people are losing social networks. And losing those social networks is creating loneliness. And so if we don't have economic opportunity for working families or single people, if we don't have affordable housing and stable communities, all we're doing is building up this loneliness epidemic more and more and more, because people are doing more and more long hours to try to provide for their needs, and unable to do it, and live very stressful lives that are very, they're just burnt out and they're lonely. My wife and I talk about this, how lonely it's been over the last 15, 20 years to see the breakdown of community. That even when you're at church together, people's lives are so busy, they don't have time to invest in one another and to help alleviate some of that loneliness that goes on. It's just a reality. And unless we make intentional efforts as a society to overcome some of those things, it's just going to be a problem that gets worse and worse, in my opinion. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I'm going to post another video. This is the second of three videos, plus a fourth video I want to talk about in the fourth video, talking openly and honestly about the differences between where many Christians are on social values and where many Democrats are on social values, and how do you bridge the gap. So there'll be a fourth video. So the next video coming out, hopefully tomorrow, will be about creating equal and fair justice system, and why that is so important for ordinary people that are living in this country. Anyway, thank you for listening, and please subscribe to the channel if it's providing any benefit to you, and watch some of my Bible teaching videos over the weekend. I appreciate it if you do. Thank you so much.